So, I did go to Supernova today, and, I mean, being that it's post-COVID, it wasn't quite all that I hoped, but I got to be with my friends again, which felt amazing. It felt so good, because one of them I hadn't seen in like over a year, and I was able to just grab him in my arms and just squish the fudge out of him, and it just felt great. Um, but one of the things I learned, incidentally, is that some of the friends that I have definitely been watching my YouTube channel, and learning it was a lot more chill than I thought. Like, it wasn't this moment of confronting me and like being in my face about it and being like, "Oh, look at you, you're a loser and you're effed up and you this and that." No, they were just like, "You have interesting points of view. I don't necessarily agree with them, but I think them. I think that you have, yeah." He was. I mean, they were being cool about it, and I had mixed feelings about the fact that they had been watching my YouTube videos without telling me, because it was like, yeah, on the one hand, that they would do that. Like, a person could take it to be duplicitous, but the thing that stood out to me was that people could know that much about my life and me and my inner life and not hate me, and still accept me, and that it was much more common than I thought. I thought that one ex-boyfriend I had who had been watching my videos and was totally cool with it was like a unique case, but and frankly, I've still been getting some dislikes on some of my videos, and I suspect that they're from a disgruntled ex-boyfriend. But yeah, I mean, yeah, people who actually know me in the real world have been watching my YouTube channel, and they don't think that I'm a giant turd about it, so it's a pretty good feeling, and it does make me wonder if I should reassess my approach, because, I mean, a big part of why I took down so many of my more personal vlogs had to do with how I became very fearful that somehow those videos would negatively impact my life, negatively impact my social life, negatively impact my life, just maybe in terms of career or something like that. But that's the thing, if people are capable of seeing the quote-unquote real me, and still, they don't hate my guts necessarily, then that's kind of, it's kind of a win, and it kind of makes me go, well, maybe I was too hasty to go and take down those videos. Well, I didn't delete them, I just made them private so people couldn't see them. And yeah, look, I mean, back when I was vlogging just by like, not even trying to be philosophical about it, but just like puking out my raw, horrible feelings into the camera, it it did feel good. Like, it came with a sense of relief. And the question I have to ask myself is, do I want to reinstate that then? If it's possible for me to like do that and still be okay, like for my life to be okay. And I have mixed feelings because, within the past, 3 days, it's potentially, like, I don't know it for certain, but it's potentially the case that at least one of my, well, I don't want to say relationships, it wasn't exactly a relationship, we didn't have an agreement to be in a relationship, but, I mean, if it's possible that he saw my videos and that negatively shaped his opinions of me, that's concerning. And certainly the argument can be made, well, but Shona, in your videos, you're just, speaking your mind, you're just spitballing, and if you can't handle it, maybe that's just proof of incompatibility. And I don't disagree, really. I think that, that's true in a way, because, yeah, I mean, in theory, a person who's right for you, you should be able to just say whatever to them, or they should be able to hear you say whatever. and not like give up on you, you know? Well, not that I want to assume that that's necessarily what's going on in his head. I don't want to make those kinds of assumptions. I have no idea what's going on inside his head, and being completely honest, I'm scared to ask. But it doesn't seem like he's being an asshole, so, you know, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt on everything. Yeah. But yeah, just, well, I mean, then there's the last boyfriend I had. That, I'm, that definitely, that situation was definitely negatively impacted by my videos because, I mean, it was inevitably the case that I ended up vlogging about him quite a bit because, you know, yeah, like, if that's how I vent, that's how I vent. And, you know, yeah, but it did bother him. Like, it didn't occur to me that it would bother him because I never mentioned his name and nobody could have figured out who he was, like, just through context, but yeah. It does make me wonder, like, whether I should, I don't know, like, cause like I said at some point, I was going to try to do the grown-up thing of just facing people with whatever I was thinking or feeling instead of just venting into vlogs, but the truth is that being able to talk things out, even to a camera, had this way of helping me to process all of my thoughts and feelings in a way that you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't reasonably expect a person to just sit there and let me talk at them for like half an hour at a time. Like, that would be really a horrible thing to do to a person. And, you know, again, the argument can be made, well, Shona, why don't you just write it down? And for a number of years I did that, but the problem was because I got so used to writing everything down, all I ever did was write things down. And yeah, it was not healthy. It was not healthy because I was, yeah, it kept me further from being able to talk. Whereas, you know, making myself talk in these videos has had the effect of helping me to get better at expressing myself verbally, which is what yeah, I need that. I need that in my life, if particularly if I want to get better at having relationships. Yeah, I feel like being able to talk better has benefited me in terms of my friendships and things. Um, it's hard not to think about the friend today because, like, yeah, he's like, I mean, I don't know if I'm his best friend, but I'd pretty happily call him mine because he's like the one person I know where I can just tell him anything about me and he can just accept it, you know? He doesn't make me work for it. Like, uh, I mean, okay, that was one of the horrifying things that I realized, though, about being rejected earlier this morning. Part of the reason I was taking it so well was precisely because the guy was just so attractive, so, you know, in my eyes, perfect, that I the whole time I was like trying to get something going with him, I just I couldn't relax. I couldn't just live and be myself. I felt this need to constantly worry over, you know, and it wasn't like a conscious worry. I didn't realize I was doing it until it was over and I felt that sense of, I can relax now. Like, but it is true that if I like a guy and I don't know where things are going with him, I do have this tendency to start to really, really worry about how I'm perceived. To an extent that is probably not healthy. And yeah, I mean, it's just inevitably a really overwhelming level of stress to live with, and so even though I really liked him and really wanted something to happen with him over the long run, You know what I mean? The stress of having to worry about what he thought was just killing me. It was just way too much for me. Okay, another thing I want to talk about though is that at the festival, like I didn't prepare myself for it. I wasn't expecting it necessarily, but the guy from 2 years ago was there. And yeah, it just felt weird to just see him, and like I didn't freak out. I could have freaked out, but I didn't freak out. I just didn't even acknowledge him. I just went right by him. And, you know, I felt proud of myself. I mean, in an ideal world, I would have been able to walk right up to him and, like, know what to say in order to reconcile with him as a friend. But knowing how hurt I was when I went through everything with him, you know, the pain of the rejection and how much I had wanted him and how terrified of him I was. And then I was able to just see him there. And like back when I loved him, I thought he was the most amazing person who had ever walked the earth. I thought that he was made out of solid gold and could do no wrong, and that he was just incredibly beautiful and everything. And then I looked at him today, and granted I only saw him for a split second, but to me he just looked, I mean, I would go so far as to question, was he sick? Like, was he, you know, had he been crying or something? Because he just looked so desperately unwell. To the, not simply in terms of being unattractive, but also he looked like he was going through something bad. And, you know, I'm not going to know what that is, because I don't trust myself to approach him. I mean, yeah, I I can totally believe that if he and I ended up talking again, that I would just end up getting attached again, and I don't want to risk that. Especially, like, if I was in a really good, stable relationship right now, maybe I wouldn't worry about it. But, like, right now, it just seems like way too much of a risk to take, especially when you consider, like, how hard I had to work just to get to where I am now, like, in terms of being okay. And certainly the argument can be made, well, Shona, you were in trouble as much as you were, not simply because he rejected you, and not simply because of the circumstances of that rejection, but mostly because of how bad your emotional state was already. And that you know, the fact is I have made a lot of progress. Like, you know what I mean? It's, you know, literally on the same day where I faced a rejection from a guy who I could easily consider to be the most attractive person I know, you know, I got rejected by him, and I was like, you know, really just taking it so well. And then, you know, then later that day, I'm facing a guy that, you know, practically blew a hole in my chest. Like, you know, he fed my soul for a wood chipper, this guy. And then, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think it can be reasonably expected that even if somehow I were to fall in love with this guy again, that it wouldn't get to me the same way. That it just wouldn't, you know what I mean? It just wouldn't get to me as much. And, yeah. Since I did the last video, I've been suddenly getting a lot of new followers on my my YouTube channel, and you know, and you know, encouraging comments as well, and likes, and you know, it's been feeling really good. It's been feeling good to have that happen, because it makes me feel supported, and it makes me feel like, I don't know, like people give a damn about my existence, which is an unusual feeling. And it's very welcome in the aftermath of a rejection. Because yeah, like it's it's not as if I'm not pained over the rejection at all. I certainly am. I mean, yeah, I was really hoping things were going to work out. I did honestly hope for that. Even if I didn't think it was going to happen, like I really considered it unlikely, I still wanted it. And yeah, like, you know what I mean? It's just, it's nice to know that other people can give a damn about my life. Um, yeah. And yeah, it has occurred to me that I could vlog about that third rejection that I went through. Um, yeah, because it's an interesting story in of itself that I could tell. And I still want to go on to tell more stories about my life as well in the form of my biographies. Well, my biography videos. Um, but yeah, do I want to start doing my videos where I just vent and like a lunatic again? I don't know. I mean, I wanted to believe that I had evolved beyond that point, but then essentially, like, even though this is meant to be like an update on how things are gonna go, like, I am venting a lot right now. I think, like, yeah. Uh, or am I venting? Because, like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's like a logical order to what I'm doing. Like, I'm not just like screaming and yelling. Oh, but that was another thought I had today while I was like ironing my clothes to get ready to go to Supernova. I was thinking about how, you know, the elephant theory, how a lot of people when they're trying to be persuasive, they make the mistake of speaking to the intellect, to the mind when they should be speaking to emotion. Because actually people are far more driven by emotion than they'd like to believe, and they just use logic to back up their emotional decisions. And but they don't notice that they're doing it. And the thought in my head was, well, if that's true, then when I'm trying to console myself when life is getting stressful or when things that I don't understand are happening, or, you know, when I'm trying to get something going with a guy and I'm freaking out about it, like, do I really want to sit and do what I do where I sort of try to logic it all, where I try to handle it all logically? Or do I want to try to just focus on comforting myself and getting myself to a place of comfort and hope that emotional stability just comes out of that? But to me, it seems like in those moments where I'm extremely agitated, I can sometimes have a logical thought that does help me to calm down. Um, like, I'm trying to remember an example right now. Look, but yeah, it has happened before, so I don't think I should consider the logic to be entirely irrelevant. Hmm. And also I'm wondering how I would best emotionally console myself. I mean, the best thing I can imagine is probably just like taking off my clothes and just rolling up in bed and taking a long nap. Um, but do I want that to be, like, would that be enough? Given that sometimes when I wake up, I am actually, like, having a panic attack over something bad that's happened to me. Um, like, yeah, um, when I felt the rejection coming, like, not after I had the rejection, like, when I felt that the rejection was coming, I was not sleeping well. I was waking up a lot, I was sweating a lot. I mean, once the rejection came, it was like I had just come out of a massage. I was like suddenly so relaxed. I actually slept like a baby for a good few hours before I had to wake up to get ready for Supernova. Um, yeah, which again is concerning to me because if I really liked him, then how come I enjoyed being rejected by him so much? And and yes, I have reasoned about it by being like, okay, yes, the whole time I was trying to get something going with him, it was stress. It was something that I had to worry about. And whereas now that I don't have to worry about it, I can just do whatever I want. I'm free to just be myself again, and I don't have to like agonize over, oh, is he gonna like me? Is he gonna like me? Is he gonna care about me? You know, what should I wear? What should I say? Am I saying too much? Did I say it at the wrong time? You know, all of these horrifying questions where I'm basically trying to mind read another person. And it's like, why do this to yourself, you know? And I'm less worried about him because I like if he was who I think he was, like and it took me a long time to figure out who he might be, but if that's the case, I suspect he's already unsubscribed anyway. So, you know, I don't and I mean, I have thought about, well, I mean, do I want to completely dismiss the possibility of ever being with him? And I mean, from an emotional perspective, I want to be like, no, don't do that, because you don't really know the future. Number one, number two, you know, he doesn't know the future either. Like that. How many times has it happened to me where I've met a guy and at first thought, I don't know about him, but then I spent a bit of time with him and ended up liking him later. Like, it's happened plenty of times, and, you know, sometimes, like, completely unexpectedly, you know? I'm sorry, I hardly ate all day. Oh, this is so good. So basically, yeah, I mean, admittedly, I don't feel the same degree of insecurity and fear with every single guy that I pursue. I tend to mostly feel those feelings of fear and insecurity if I'm dealing with a guy who I find really, really, really attractive, like who who has a lot of things going for them. Like, I've talked about in other videos how I tend to date guys who don't have a lot going for them, who tend to actually be in serious life trouble. And, you know, I think a lot of that has to do with how historically I've tended to assume that it would only be a guy who has very little to nothing going for him that would ever notice me or care about me. Because, yeah, I mean, one of the horrifying mistakes I sort of realized I was making with that guy that I'd liked in the aftermath of the rejection, you know, as I was on my way to Supernova thinking it over, I realized that, well, actually, no, even before that, even when I was just sitting in my room thinking about it, I was like, yeah, I had this tendency to assume that just because he was super mega ultra attractive, that he was necessarily regarding me with secret contempt, like that on some level he was just trolling me. And it's a really dark thought, like it's a really awful thing to think of another human being, even subconsciously. And yeah, it's just, why do I have to assume that why do I have to assume that only ugly people or people who have serious life problems could ever accept me? Like, that's, why do I have to make any assumptions at all? Like, but even as I say this, my brain is still kind of like going, really? He talked to me? This guy was as good looking as he was. Like, just so good looking. And yet he was talking to me? Really? Like, in order to engage with the situation, there is an extent to which my brain has had to detach the images that I've seen of him from the things that he has said to me in writing, and to detach all of that, like, even then, my brain is not even admitting that the photos I saw of him were really him. Like, my brain is still trying to be like, no, this is just some model you saw in a magazine. It's not a real person that you know. Like, it's this person who's sending you messages. It's just some hacker is just pretending to be this guy somehow. And it's, you know, even though I did a video call with this guy, even though I know that it is him, like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's that level of disbelief that, you know what I mean? It's radical cognitive dissonance is what it is. So yeah, like, my brain was so far from believing the situation that it had to be like, no, if he really is that person, if he really is that attractive and accomplished and he's talking to you, well, then it has to be some kind of joke or some kind of weird phenomenon, or it has to be that he's just this guy who constantly contacts thousands and thousands of women, contacts every woman on OkCupid, and just, you know, regardless of what they're actually like, and then just mucks around with them for a bit, and then he goes on his way. Or, you know, it has to be that he doesn't really exist somehow, and, you know, yeah. And my brain started doing this weird thing where it started trying to convince itself that the whole thing had just been a weird dream, or a weird idea that I'd had in my head, and that it never actually happened. Like, it's like, why is it so hard for me to believe that a good-looking person could actually talk to me and be nice to me? Like, that was the thing too, like, when he was saying nice things to me, my brain didn't go, oh, he's saying nice things to me, therefore I should trust him. My brain sort of was going, no, he's a really, really good-looking person saying nice things to me, therefore he mustn't mean them. Therefore he must have some ulterior motive in saying them that I don't know about. And you know what I mean? So it was this weird thing where, even though arguably all the kindnesses he showed me should have reassured me that you know, my connection with him was a legitimate one, I just could never believe it. He was just too good looking for me to believe that he could care about me. And, you know, then people could say, well, Shona, then logically you could just date guys that you find unattractive. You could just date gross guys, or guys that are, you know, lumpy and whatever. But the problem with that thinking is that what that means is that I'm meant to shape my life around my own insecurities and my own insanity. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying don't date ugly people. That's not at all what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that it doesn't make sense in my mind that if you are just not dating attractive people, not because you don't want them, not because they never find you attractive, but purely because you just can't, you're so far from, you know what I mean? You just possess this bizarre mythology where you have to believe that attractive, accomplished people have to hate you and find you appalling. Well, that's a big problem. Like, that's not just Shona being Shona. That's sickness. Like, I have to actually find some way to stop myself from thinking like this. And, you know, I mean, I'm doing a lot better than I did, because I can remember myself being in a situation similar to this one back when I was like 18, 19, and I did not handle it so well at all. I freaked the hell out all over that guy, and I was messaging him a ridiculous amount of times per day, and, you know, and I was obsessed with, you know, watching his every move on social media. It was just bad. It was just really unhealthy. And I didn't do that this time. I resisted obsessing, you know, and Yeah, so I feel good. I feel good at least in terms of improvement, but there's obviously still headway to make. I still have to work towards what am I working towards? I have to work towards being able to believe that a good looking person is actually capable of being nice and capable of wanting to actually talk to me, not as some kind of broader prank, but actually because they have some potential interest in my humanity maybe, or some other thing. Um, yeah, this video is very disordered. It runs all over the place, and there isn't a specific subject to it. This is the type of video that I have resisted publishing for a long time, precisely because I thought that it was causing nothing but problems. And yeah. And the thing is, I don't necessarily like watching these videos. I don't really like how I sort of meander all over the place. I think that it's not necessarily a good thing. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna publish this. I think I'm gonna delete it and just make it about, I don't know. I don't know, maybe I will publish it after all, just to be like, face the fear, just deal with it. I don't know. I don't know.